Transurfers and the Transurfing Curious. I am Renee Garcia, and this is my Reality Transurfing Express lesson of the day. So this is going to be a little bit of an intense lesson. We're going to go sort of to the dark side of transurfing. But first, obviously, if you have not subscribed yet to this channel, please do so now. And thank you all for your likes and your comments and whatever social media format you are watching this. I truly, truly appreciate all the support and kind words. And please continue to like and comment. It gives me energy to continue. So thank you so much. So today we are going to talk about the induced transition. And the reason that we're going to talk about this is because a member of the International Transurfing Institute Facebook group recently talked about going into an induced transition. And I want to clarify that transurfing really is not all just roses and looking at life through rose-colored lenses and focusing overtly on the positive. There is a lot of positive thinking that goes into transurfing, but also on the flip side of it, what is really valuable is to understand when you are participating in negative thinking or negative events or something that is pulling your energy away from you, and being able to recognize what is going on exactly and how to sort of tourniquet the bleeding, so to speak, of your energetic levels. So somebody mentioned, I can't remember where, but transurfing ultimately is about energy management, and it is so true. It really is about energy management, and when you can stop bleeding out energy to entities and things that do not benefit you, you can conserve that energy for yourself, and then you can use it to climb up the track. So again, and I know that I draw this one a lot, but this is really transurfing 101. So we have our life tracks, right? And how I like to look at them is that they're linear and they're stacked on each other, okay? And what transurfing wants for you is for you to get to these upper life tracks, right? That's you tapping into positive information in the alternative space, being aware of pendulums and what they do to you, managing those pendulums, trying to get yourself on the wave of success, which is up here, and being aware of the induced transition, which is going down to one of these lower life tracks. Okay, so remember that our thought energy connects with material outside of us in the alternative space. There's an infinite amount of material and information outside of us, and our thought energy connects with that information or material, and it either helps us to go up, or if you focus on the negative, it helps you, well, not helps you, it sends you down, right? So, and again, this is thought quality. Higher thought quality is up, lower thought quality is down. Pendulum sucking your blood, you go down. You managing pendulums and reserving energy for yourself, you go up. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about what an induced transition is exactly. It is you either getting sucked dry of your energy via pendulums, and it sort of sends you down, right? You've got nothing left for yourself. It is you participating with certain things outside of you that will take your energy, and today we will go a lot into drugs and alcohol, toxic relationships, negative thinking, tragic events. I'm going to talk more specifically on the drugs and alcohol a little bit later. But an induced transition is simply you tuning in to your environment, highlighting the negative, continuing to give too much energy to pendulums outside of you, or even internal pendulums, right? Because again, an induced transition can occur just from negative thinking alone. And it is, again, about your thought quality. So it's thought quality, pendulums, and what sectors of the alternative space that you are tuning into. Okay, so a few points that I would like to make. Really staying up here in this space is about you not allowing negative information into your layer of reality. Okay, it's you making a conscious effort to highlight what is good outside of you and to turn away from what is not good, okay, what is not supporting you, what is sending your thought quality low, what is causing you to have negative thinking. It is you simply inviting in negative information, highlighting it, and then your brain starts to do things, right? And you connect with the negative information that you are focusing on, that you are highlighting, and sure enough, it all kind of goes to shit, right? I mean, that's the downward spiral. So I know I've talked a few times about the wave of success being an upward spiral. Okay, it's where exponentially things just get better and better and better until you've caught that wave. It is the exact same with the induced transition. It is the negative spiral. You consume and highlight negative information in your environment, and exponentially it shows up greater and greater and greater and greater, and then before you know it, you want to commit suicide, right? And that's where I'm going to start talking a little bit about suicide. I want to talk about suicide and drugs and alcohol. So suicide, in my opinion, now this is not spoken about in Reality Transurfing steps 1 through 5, but in my opinion, what suicide is it's when you get to this absolute bottom track, right? You do not see any positive, you do not see any advantage, you do not highlight any positive information in your environment. Your thought quality is incredibly low, and you have given all of your energy away to pendulums. Probably drugs and alcohol is in there somewhere, because I think I saw a statistic once that 90% of people that end up committing suicide have issues with drug and alcohol addiction. So, and we'll get to the drugs and alcohol in a moment, but you know, when someone is down on the lowest track, right? I think what happens is they feel that there really is nowhere to go. They have hit the base bottom, or maybe they even fear that they could go lower than that. But I think it's when people get to this very base bottom track, they're supporting a theory in their mind that life is meaningless, right? And remember, there's evidence to support all theories. So if you have a theory that life is meaningless and you just need to kill yourself, then you will gather evidence from your external environment to support that. And that's, again, just highlighting a bunch of negative factors, negative things, negative material information from your from your environment, and using that to support your theory, right? And then that's when, you know, somebody commits suicide. So I spoke briefly about this on my transmigration talk with Eric that just came out on YouTube. If you've not watched that yet, please do so. I talked about a roommate of mine actually at the beginning of the year, somebody that I let rent a room in my house, and I did not know was suffering. He lived here for a number of months, and then one day his friend came over to my house after he had been gone for a couple days and I hadn't seen him, and his friend came over to my house and told me that he had driven to San Francisco and jumped off of a building and committed suicide. So this was very, very devastating to me. This was a tragic event that happened. I had little control over how I responded emotionally, and I actually went into somewhat of an induced transition, a little bit of a depression, just because I was in such shock. But that's not the point that I want to make. The point that I want to make is, me and my friend, we were living in the same house, right? I was happy and he was sad. I know this sounds super trivial, but I was pulling evidence from my environment to support my theory that life is good. He was pulling, well, he shouldn't be smiling. He was pulling evidence from his environment, which was in turn the exact same environment, to support his theory that life was bad and that there was no way out for him and that he needed to commit suicide. So it really is true. We were on a very, very similar track, right? The set and decorations were almost exactly the same. We live in the same town. We see all the same things. We go to the same store. We encounter a lot of the same people. We lived in the same house, right? And I was able to support my theory that life is beautiful and life is good, and have enough evidence externally to support that and contribute to me going up to these higher tracks. Now, in the exact same physical environment, he was doing the opposite. He was pulling information from his reality that was sending him down to a very, very, very base track. And ultimately, and I never really figured out what exactly led to his suicide, is actually quite tragic. But, he obviously pulled enough evidence to support his theory that he did not belong here on Earth, and he committed suicide. Now, I want to talk about drugs and alcohol a little bit. Drugs and alcohol, remember, as Vadim presents it in the book, that you are essentially borrowing energy. So if you're on, let's just say, a medium track, right, and you feel that when you take drugs or drink alcohol, you get to go up a little bit. Your energy level goes up. You feel good, you're having a good time, you're living it, you're hanging with your friends, or you're doing whatever, and you're using it to get yourself up a little bit. Now, when you take drugs and alcohol and you borrow that energy, so to speak, you ultimately have to pay that energy back with interest. So that's when, and I'm addressing this because of somebody that mentioned this on the Facebook group, that he had drank a little too much alcohol one night or over the weekend, and he felt that it had sent him into an induced transition. Now, that's what happens. You borrow the energy, and let's say you're here, right? You borrow the energy, you go up a little, up a track, but then when you have to pay it back, you don't go back down to the track that you were on when you drank the alcohol or took the drugs. You go back low, you go down lower, right? Then you have to work at getting yourself back just to your base level. And if you continue, if you're on a cycle of drug and alcohol use, you never really pay back that interest. You're just constantly struggling with energy levels. And, I had issues with drugs and alcohol in my life, so I can speak about this. I finally, at the age of 30 years old, I took a 5-year break from drugs and alcohol. I did not drink a sip of alcohol. I didn't take any drugs. I didn't smoke weed. I didn't do anything. And it helped me to not keep doing this thing back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And then ultimately I found transurfing. I found myself up here, and yeah, every once in a while I'll have a couple drinks or whatever, and I know that the next day I'm going to go back to that track, so I account for that. I make sure that I never, ever, ever drink when I'm in a depressed state, or my energy levels are low, or pendulums have gotten too much of my energy, or my thought quality is low. If I know that I'm going to go out and have a couple drinks a few days before, I make sure my thought quality is up. I get myself up here because I know that I'm going to go down a little, right? And I'm going to have to work to get myself back up. I'm going to have to pay that energy back with interest, right? So, what are some examples of how to avoid an induced transition? Tune out, right? Politely walk away from an argument. Remove yourself as much as possible with ease and grace, right? Don't fight with pendulums. Don't participate. And when it comes to drugs and alcohol, make sure you understand what you are giving your energy to exactly. What actually happens when a person separates from a positive life track to a negative life track via an induced transition? Life in comparison looks a whole lot worse because from that layer of reality, it is a whole lot worse. Remember, if you are viewing reality as not fun and not good and a depressed place like my friend was, your reality will provide you all the evidence to support that theory. So it's about maintaining positive thinking, maintaining your thought quality, and being aware if you're going up or if you're going down. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Bye.